Good, we'll have another YouTube video. I said, we'll have another YouTube video for the First Amendment Foundation to watch.
Nothing surprises me.
See, Frank, I go on vacation for one meeting.
I know, and I get myself in trouble.
One meeting. Oh, heck breaks loose.
I had this feeling in my stomach, and I wanted to text you and just remind you. And then you tell me you weren't coming. That's why I kind of went like, "Are you kidding me?" Because I thought you were joking with me. I'm serious. Thank you.
Out here. Oh Lord, what you all dressed up for today?
The council meeting.
Huh?
Appropriate council attire.
Normal attire. Okay.
Normal business clothes.
Remind me, it's like
When I'm at the job site, I do dress normal.
I usually forget that one, but I'm gonna try. No.
Come on, man. I don't like those kind of emails.
So I hear you say you're doing digital.
I'm trying.
You're growing up so fast.
It makes you want to go in the
Didn't feel like
woods,
printing
doesn't it?
400
Well, I've been up since 5, and maybe getting bed
Again?
late.
again.
I've been hooked on this dang
Well, it's pathetic,
Narcos
'cause
series
the
and stuff. I've
digital.
been watching that.
Print it out, bring it to the meeting, and I put it in my scanner, scan
The
it back in,
Narcos?
Yeah.
save
Yeah, I
it.
can't. My husband watches it without me. I can't.
So I'm getting rid of
It's a little
that.
aggressive.
You use like Bluebeam or
I don't even know what that
Adobe.
means.
Bluebeam's like a program you can write on your PDF. You can type into your PDFs, so you don't. If you have a note, you just type in Bluebeam or Adobe Acrobat. Some versions of that. I don't like the Adobe Acrobat version. Kamala uses Bluebeam. Never heard of it.
Decorate the courtyard.
I can just write it on here.
I know, me too.
It is. I just want to make sure because if you were
Then
the
you can't use that, and you gotta
Oh,
write
yeah.
what medium it is, so you don't
Yeah.
forget.
No,
That's right, write that on here, then I add that,
yeah.
I'll scan in my
And
notes.
if it's like
It'll work.
the West Campus, I usually
Yeah,
don't.
I don't blame it. I just know I think they sent emails out to the
Then you can reduce your
It
fee
goes
down
up
so
to
you don't have
yeah.
paper costs.
Yeah, I'll always check.
I'm not
Reduce
know
your
what I'm
costs back
getting
down
into,
so
so
you don't have all the paper costs.
Never.
Yeah, we will see the JV basketball game in December.
Okay, they use the gym there, right?
Yeah, so Ashton's in cheer club, and so she's cheerleading in the game.
Gotcha.
And she kindergartners cheerleading. It's gonna be super cute. She got her little outfit last week. She's really excited.
So this looks like.
Ready?
So Dana and I had a great discussion about which line I should sign on that particular agreement. Since I represent Treasure Coast as their general counsel.
So you decide on us, right?
I forget which one I decided.
Sure.
Or maybe sign them all.
Huh? Oh, every time. And don't be the longest one. That's the two. That's me and the chief had this agreement that he can't be the longest one. That's true. That's right.
music or something.
Elevator music. Yeah.
And everybody's so quiet in here this evening. Usually there's some talk going on. All right, it is 6 o'clock on November 15th. This is the regularly scheduled, actually, it is a regularly scheduled council meeting for November, but it was changed from last Thursday in honor of Veterans Day till this evening. Lori, would you please do the honor and call the roll?
Mayor Deambra,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone,
Here.
Councilmember Brandon,
Here.
Councilmember Prince,
Here.
Councilmember Young.
Here.
This evening's invocation and pledge will be done by Councilmember Brandon.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we just want to say thank you. In this season of thanks and respect, we just want to say thank you for everything that you give to this village and the people. We also want to thank you for always taking care and looking out for those who serve to protect us here at home. Thank you for everything that you do to instill strength and love in everyone here so that we can live a quality life and amongst each other. Thank you for taking care of our children and keeping them on a guided path. Again, really just this season, 2 words, thank you. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is the approval of the agenda. I've been informed that item 22 is being pulled. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda with item 22 removed?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this evening's first item is a recognition of 2 gentlemen who've achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, Patrick Conrad and Oleg Conrad. And I'm going to ask both young men to come up here. You know, in our society today, we provide recognition for accolades to people for all sorts of endeavors, particularly sports. But there are other endeavors that our young people in particular take upon themselves, such as scouting, that have significant value to the community. If you look at what I'll call the 3 P's for achievement, it's preparedness, and of course the Scout motto is being prepared. It's perseverance and it's patience. And I'd like to redefine patience maybe as use the word discipline, because it is self-discipline that is the undercurrent for everything that we can achieve in life. And when we have self-discipline, and we take care of the things we need to take care of, then that really frees us up when we get every time to, without a guilty conscience or looking backwards saying, hey, I need to do this or this, to really enjoy that time that we have for ourselves. But it really does drive success. In fact, it was just an article the other day in the paper about Tom Brady. And they said, what is Tom Brady's secret edge that he has over others? And they said, it's all about the self-discipline he brings to his life and he brings to the game. And if you look at scouting and you look at the lessons that you learn, again, 3 T's, but as you go through the ranks from tenderfoot to the 2nd class, the 1st class, the star, the life, and ultimately the eagle, you're learning valuable life lessons, you're learning teamwork, you're learning leadership, you're learning what it takes to achieve. I can't be prouder of these 2 young because in achieving Eagle Scout, they've achieved what only 6% of those who ever enter scouting actually end up achieving. So gentlemen, thank you. Oleg, thank you very much. Conrad, pleasure and honor, gentlemen. And if you'd like to say anything, you're more than welcome to.
I'm just waiting for that day. It was very hard. Just all the work, especially yesterday. But my parents say, put the drive in me to do it. So I think my parents should.
It's a great accomplishment. A lot of effort. Couldn't do without my parents and lots of the other people around me. So it's an individual accomplishment, but it's also a team effort.
Well, again, Okay, moving on. Can I have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
A quick comment, would anyone be interested in pulling 6 to talk about it with agenda item 18? I think Doug has a presentation, so it kind of goes along with it.
If you'd like to do that, we can do that.
I don't have a problem with that.
Because you're making a motion to approve pulling number 6.
Yes, to
Okay,
put it with
do we have a second?
agenda item 18.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Next item is communications from citizens, and again, what we ask here is, if you have a comment about something that's not on this evening's agenda,
When are we doing?
number 6, we'll start with that under the regular agenda. So if you have comments on something that is not on the regular agenda, this is the time. Do we have anybody, Lori?
Yes, I have Howard Taylor.
Okay. You're a frequent guest here. You know the drill. Name, address.
Harold Taylor, 13 Chapel Court, right here in Tequesta, obviously. Not too many years ago, Jose Rodriguez joined the village as the head of our building department. I think everybody in this room, as well as everybody in the village of Tequesta, probably owes that man a great deal of thanks for what he's brought to the village. First of all, his knowledge of the building code. That's important. Just as important is what he's done with the building department as far as preserving documentation. If you go to the building department and want to know if anything's being done and how it was done to a home or a business, and if it's done more than 10 years ago, there's absolutely no records kept. Nothing. I'm in the process of having contractors redo my windows to hurricane-proof them. Went down to the building department. There's absolutely no information on what the previous owner built when he enclosed the patio and made a room out of it. I've had to chip about a 2 or 3 inch round hole in a couple of places in the wall just to find out what's there so a contractor could bid it and get the windows the right size. You don't want to spend $14,000 and have wrong size windows. So what Jose has done is he's managed to convince you people on the council to allow him to build a scanner. I've seen the scanner. Everything that's now done is scanned electronically and stored. So if anybody comes in and wants to know what's being done to their house, if they're going to be, say, a new buyer for a house, all you have to do is come and you can find out. Anybody else that comes in as a buyer of a home wants to know if contracts have been taken out and permits done properly, you have no information. I can understand why the building department in past years has destroyed paper evidence because the files get too big. But what I don't understand, why wasn't that information microfilmed? It's been around for years. I do not understand what went on in the building department. I don't know if previous councils know that was going on, but when you start throwing away permit applications, inspections, plans, and drawings, you've got a real problem. I've never lived anywhere in my entire life where you can't go to a building department or a permit department and find out what was done. Thank God for Jose. We owe him a debt of thanks.
Thank you, Harold. You know, I won't say it's rare, but it's awfully nice to have one of the members of our community actually compliment one of our staff for the work they're doing. And I understand the past history, but you're right. Jose's done a great job for us, and I know I don't see him here tonight, but I'm sure he's very appreciative of your comments. So thank you. Anybody else?
Avery Bennett.
Hi, Avery.
Hi. Me and my family live in an unincorporated Palm Beach County. This means that we are not a part of the village of Tequesta, technically. Although we do live near and in it, we are not a part of the village. Me and my family have gone to many of the events throughout my life. And this year we are not allowed to do it because of the law. The people in the unincorporated part are not allowed to go to most of the events because it's just for people living in the area. We usually go to these events and we always look forward to it every year. And it was really disappointing for us that we couldn't go to Tequesta Fest and the other events. And now that most of these events are coming up, we still wanted to go, but we can't. And we wanted to know if we could pay an entrance fee to go to the event, because these events here are really fun and mean a lot to everyone in the village. And we really want to go, and everyone enjoys it. Thank you.
Avery, thank you. It takes a lot for you to come up here and speak in front of the council and speak in front of everybody, so you're to be complimented. I understand what you're saying. There are some complexities to this issue, so we're not going to get into it this evening, but I would be more than happy to sit and talk with you and your mom, or you can talk to other members of the council as well, or village staff, and have a further conversation on this, okay? But thank you very much.
Good job, Ms. Bennett.
Good job.
Kelly and Dylan Bennett.
My name is Dylan Bennett. I'm 7 years old and I live in Bermuda Terrace. And me and my mom love to go fishing. And I love to go fishing with my friends too. And we love to go fishing at the bridge, but we can't because there's a sign that says no fishing from the bridge. And I don't think that's really fair because people leave fish, guts, trash, and fish hooks on the bridge and make it dirty so other people like me and other people that like to fish can't do what thing they love to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. And same thing, young man. It's very brave for you to come out here and speak to the whole group, so very appreciative.
Thank you. And one comment that we did have, you did a good job, but is we did go and we talked to one of the police officers there who was there supervising. And what we had thought is if we made a rule that it was no littering or no fish guts or these types of things, that we think the people and the teenagers and the kids we've seen there would comply with that. So if that was the rule, instead of no fishing, then people could still go, because we have seen wonderful teenagers in the community there fishing, taking the time to teach him how to fish, and it's a really good activity for, I think, all the children and the teenagers in the community.
Okay. Again, thank you for your input.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Okay, that's it for this evening. Okay. Moving on then, we have communications from council. I'm going to start on the far end. Mr. Prince?
Well, I have to agree with you about fishing on the bridge. I kind of like the idea of them fishing off the bridge, but we've had that discussion in the past. But
You do?
unfortunately, it didn't work out that way for you, pal. But I do understand and wish that it was different for you, because I think it is a great venue. But others have messed it up for you guys to be able to do that. And so we voted on that sometime in the past, and unfortunately, it didn't work out the way that I would have liked to have seen it work out. But you can always go down there to the fishing dock here in town and fish off of that. And if they become to where they would charge for an admission to come to the events and stuff, I'll take some money out of my indiscretionary funds and I'll pay your entry fee for you. How's that? That's all I've got.
All right. Lori?
Good job, Bennett kids. Because our regular meeting was moved because it was on Veterans Day, I would like to personally just thank our veterans that work for the village: Emir Yildiz, Ariel Ramirez, John Capsio, Daniel Tillis, and Dennis Rick. We are definitely blessed to have them working for the village. And that is all.
Thank you. Molly?
I have no communications.
Kyle?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. And I am as well, other than to say, I know we haven't arrived at Thanksgiving yet, but it's coming up next week, so an early happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Okay, now we're going to move on to standing reports. First, the village attorney, Mr. Davis.
If any of you didn't see my response letter to the First Amendment Clinic, the village received a letter from this group out of the University of Georgia, which was critical of one particular meeting and the use of our rules of decorum. In reviewing the letter, it seemed very clear that the description that was provided in that letter was not accurate. I did pen a response. You were all copied on it. If you have any questions, please give me a call offline. I'll be happy to discuss it further with you. Other than that, I have nothing else to report unless council has any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Davis? Okay, all right. Thank you, Keith. Next, village manager, Mr. Allen.
So staff is gearing down while we're gearing up for Tequesta Fest. What an amazing event this past weekend. A lot of people don't see all the work that goes into it, Tequesta Fest or chili cook-off. So I just want to thank the staff that have volunteered their time and made that event so successful. And I came in 2019. It was kind of a rainy event, but just to see all the people out again is great. And I know our rec staff is gearing up for the Tequesta Fest coming up this weekend. And so just kudos to all of our staff for the hard work they put in to make those events successful and put Tequesta on the map for the weekend. So the details will be coming out for the Christmas event in the park soon. We do plan on having it, it's 2 nights. So the first night will be in conjunction with our food truck night. And so that will be open to everybody. The second night will be residents only. Capacity-wise, we hope that'll work, and we're shooting for that. And then the last item I have is we have offered, and she has accepted, a part-time code compliance officer that'll be starting November 18th in LaToya Thompson. So we're looking forward to having additional services that we can provide to our residents. So with that, that's my report.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. Next up is Chief Medina. Chief Medina is not here, so we are graced by our Deputy Chief this evening.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Village Attorney, Village Clerk, Mr. Manager. For the month of October, the Police Department, we had several services we provided this month. We held our National Night Out Parade on October 23rd. It went really well. We had nice participation and people coming outside to watch all the parades go by. We also assisted with the chili cook-off this past weekend. Proud to say we had no incidents at the cook-off. Chief Medina, Sergeant Kurt Blanc, and Corporal William Hoisrat assisted the Jupiter Island Police Department with their 2021 Police Day event for the Boys and Girls Club. From Chief Medina advised he was very shocked to see how many children were at the event and how well it went. So he was very proud to be part of that event. We assisted with the Fall Festival of First Baptist Church. We participated with Good Shepherd with their Halloween event. Lieutenant Smolin assisted the fire department with their oral boards. And we're proud to say that Detective Lopez completed his 1-year probation. We're very happy to have Detective Lopez with us. He brings a lot of skill set from New York PD with him. So we're very proud to have him. On the 5th of October, we assisted the Parks and Recs with their food truck event also. Starting today, the manatee season starts. It will run through March 31st of 2022. So that begins today. Every weekend from now on, we'll have somebody out patrolling the Jupiter Inlet for protecting the manatees. Speaking of Jupiter Narrows, I spoke with Florida Wildlife Commission officer today. The commission advised they just got out of litigation with the county, and now they're having to reassess what they're going to do with the Narrows. They do not know if they're going to be able to lower the speed limit or not. That's all they could advise right now. So we're still waiting on that.
Have we been advised as to what the issue is there, as to why that's an issue?
the officer did not know. That's just what her supervisor
Have we had
told
any
her.
communication to you on this?
No, we can find out, we'll try to
Okay.
get you guys more.
I can call, make some more phone calls and try to find out for
Okay.
you. So, for BLM stats, the month of October, we had 199 contacts, 1 warning, and we worked 50 hours on the BLM property. The Marine unit, we had 42 contacts, 5 vessel stops, and 5 warnings. Training for the month of October, Detective Lopez went through FTO training. Amber Kraus and 2 of our COPs went through UTV training. Jesse DaCosta also attended crisis intervention training. Our overtime, we're projected to be at 11.54%, and actually we're at 3.58% for overtime. So we're well below average for overtime. And unless council has any other questions, let's conclude the police department's business.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a quick question.
Go ahead.
I was actually in the bank today and opened up a checking account, and I hadn't received my checks, and there was a guy in line behind me, and he said that he thought that there was some mailbox theft here in the village of Tequesta, and I hadn't heard anything about any of that, but was there any reported mailbox thefts recently in the village?
No, sir.
I didn't think so, but thought I'd ask.
Any other questions? All right. Oh, thank you. Chief True.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, Village Clerk, and Village Attorney. First of all, it's going to be hard to surpass the 2 little residents that we had come in here and talk to you all, so I'll do my best. Regarding some meetings, on the 21st of October, I met with Glance Corporation, reference preemption devices. This is an attempt to look at options for us going forward in dealing with the US 1 bridge closures. And I have had some conversation with the manager regarding that. I think you're aware of that. My EMS team went to the advisory and providers meeting this month on October 21st. The fire chiefs meeting was held at Palm Beach Gardens. That was our first meeting in person in about a year and a half, and that was on October 22nd. My training officers attended their meeting on the 9th of November. Regarding training, I'm happy to announce that Lieutenant McGovern has completed the National Fire Academy's Managing Officer Program and will be starting his capstone project here shortly. I'm also happy to announce that firefighter Sambelli completed his paramedic checkoff and is now one of our solo paramedics taking care of the residents of Tequesta. In our ongoing attempt to bring more multi-company and major drills at facility training, we're going to be at Palm Beach Gardens Training Facility on December the 2nd. We're hoping for it to be a live fire training, but we're still not sure on the details of that, but it will be multi-company, it will be facility training. So we'll have one of our shifts there. Our public education and outreach program, we were pretty busy in October. First thing we did, of course, was we did the ribbon cutting of the fitness center with the police department. On October 16th, we had teams at Firefest at JD State Park. What we typically do there is we set up a booth and we go over 2 things, hands-only CPR and our Stop the Bleed program. The Stop the Bleed program was made possible through basically a grant given to us for the equipment. So we now have to go out and teach it, and we're happy to. So that was a good event for us. On October 23rd, we did participate in the National Night Out with the Tequesta PD. And then, of course, on Halloween, we had our Operation Candy Toss, which is one of my personal favorites because it's just fun to be out. You get to see everybody's costume. You hand out the candy. We, of course, hand out more candy to anybody who wears a firefighter costume. So we always do that. The Fall Fest, we attended the Fall Fest at the First Baptist Church. We also supported Good Shepherd's event. On November 13th, of course, we had the Tequesta Chili Cook-Off, which I believe everybody would agree was the absolute best event we've ever done in the 10 years we've been doing it. The turnout couldn't have been any better. The weather couldn't have really, well, weather could have been a few degrees cooler, but the weather was sensational, and I think everybody just wanted to get out. And to have that many people come out and support us and support the charities that we're trying to give back to, it's just an incredible feeling. I quite frankly am exhausted, but it was a great event. I'd happily do it again tomorrow if we could pull it off. Upcoming events, we have the food truck rallies, of course. We're going to be in attendance, and we're planning something special, I think, for the December 3rd version of that to coincide with Christmas. And so look for a tent from Tequesta Fire Rescue and some sort of Christmas decoration and so forth. That's about all I'll give you at this point, mainly because that's all I have at this point, but it'll be good, I promise. We'll also be doing, we'll be at Tequesta Fest. We've got Run for the Pies. We've got the Christmas Parade. Emergency management, well, I'm happy to report, and if you guys have been paying attention, the COVID numbers are down pretty low statewide. I think we're below 10,000, thereabouts. And the tropics, the activity has continued to decline. We're almost out of hurricane season. And as of the 9th of November, we had 21 storms, so still a busy year, although I think most people would agree that due to the weather pattern, we didn't have to spend a lot of time managing which way they were going. So that is my report, unless there are questions.
Any questions for the chief this evening? And we'll see you up here in a bit.
Yep.
Thank you, Sid. Mr. Hammond.
Good evening. Just a few things. We had the privilege to, this month, we had the privilege to have internal promotion, promoting one of our team members, Joe DiNorcio, to the distribution foreman position. That was a position vacated when with Mike Rowland's retirement. We had a pre-bid meeting for a small project that is upcoming related to the relocation, or I'm sorry, the replacement of the drawbridge. Those bids are due in just a couple days. We received the first installment of about $15,000 as part of the grant we received from FDEP related to bioswales and stormwater related items. And lastly, our teams put to use, good use over the last month, the valve exerciser, exercising about 80 valves on the system, geolocating them, getting them into the GIS system, and that's about it. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Thank you, Matt. Assistant Chief McGrew, we're going to pull you back up here because there was a question raised on item 6 from the consent agenda, which will now lead off the regular agenda. That was a resolution of the village increasing the revenue and expenditures in the general fund for this year by $2,090 in recognition of additional revenues from Palm Beach County.
I think she was referring to 6 on number 3.
Is that what you?
3-6.
Yeah, my apologies.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
I
should have
thought-
clarified. It was 6 on number 3 to go with Doug's presentation later. Sorry about that.
See?
Okay, so.
You were nervous, weren't you?
All right.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to let you go.
That's fine.
And since I think the motion was made, and I was under the impression we were talking about 6 on item number 6. So do we need to?
I think we need to make sure everybody understood what they were voting on and perhaps remove the consent agenda with the understanding that what was pulled was the 6th contract under the 3rd item as opposed to item number 6 itself.
Okay, we need another motion to
Yes,
vote?
please.
Okay. So for the consent agenda, we are putting item 6 back in, and we're talking about subsection 6 under item 3. So can I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now, Mr. Hammond, we're back to you again, I think. Or is this,
I think
or is this you, Mr. Allen?
We're on number
This
9.
is sub 6 of item number 3 under the consent agreement. This is the Kimberly Horn grant preparation work that is ongoing for, I believe, the work to be done on
I
the
think
roads
she
and
wants
sewers.
it. I think she wants it with all of Doug's
With
stuff.
agenda item 18?
Yeah. I think so.
Oh, you want to move it to, at that point in
Yeah,
the
it goes with,
conversation?
I think,
Yes.
Doug's
Okay.
presentation and.
All right, that's fine. All right, so we'll add it down there. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the regular agenda, the first item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Florida authorizing an amendment for the fiscal year general fund budget, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Mr. Dunkley, this is you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This agenda item is merely a housekeeping item that seeks to reflect the total amount of federal grant revenue that will be recognized during the current fiscal year, fiscal '22. The approved expenditure budget for ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, will not be amended, and this is just merely an housekeeping item.
Okay. Any council discussion on this? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, moving on to old business. The first item is the approval of the collective bargaining agreement with our fire rescue folks. Ms. Reed, how are you this evening?
I'm great. Good evening. I'm Merlene Reed, HR Director and Risk Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. On October 25th, the IAFF and the Village reached an agreement on a new 3-year contract. The Village received notification today that the member votes carried 18-0, unanimous. And so I want to start by thanking the fire department for the outstanding work that they do every day. We don't say this every single day, but they're an incredibly kind, caring, knowledgeable, and just decent human beings. And it's a personal pleasure to work with them. Negotiations got a bit bumpy along the way, but which family doesn't have some bumps? Some of it was really bumpy. But in the end, we have what we consider to be a very fair agreement. And I want to say special thanks to everyone involved in making the agreement a reality. I'm going to start by thanking the IAFF negotiating team, Mark Floyd, Scott Bilecki, David Tui, our district VP, Jason, who held it together, and the other union reps, Andre Dodd and Adam Evans. For the Village, the negotiating team, while not at the table, they were just as integrally involved. Village Manager Jeremy Allen, he worked tirelessly on the step plans especially. Fire Rescue Chief Jim Trube, he worked diligently with Jason to overhaul the career development plan. And at the table was Attorney Bob Norton, Hugh Dunkley, Finance Director, and of course myself. The Village Council, I also want to say that your ability to take the time to understand the issues being faced and to balance the needs of the residents along with the needs of the staff was outstanding, and we thank you for that. I'm just going to touch on a few of the highlights, and then I'll be open for questions. You have the major highlights in front of you. But we do have a 3-year agreement here with across-the-board increases of 2% for each fiscal year, 2021, 22, and 2023. The medic certification incentive pay of 15% has now been rolled into the base pay. So the firefighter medic and the lieutenant medic, those positions are now standardized as regular positions. So, if you have any questions, myself, Jeremy, right, Hugh, and of course Jason, we're here to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I'm good.
No questions, but thank you for wrapping that up and putting it all together.
Okay,
you're welcome.
Molly, Colin?
No, I just, Sam, thank you for everyone's time and efforts going into this, and I just want to say I'm really happy we were able to come to this agreement.
Yeah, I just want to echo your compliments to everyone involved in this process. It is very important to us that we take care of all of our village employees, and as you said, it's always a balancing act to try and make sure we're treating everybody fairly at the same time, making sure that it's within the budget capability and within our taxpayer capability. And I think the unions have always considered that as well in their negotiating stance. I think they recognize that the best interest of the residents is obviously providing them with the services that they do, but they also recognize the financial issues that we all deal with every day. And I think they have always been good partners in that regard, and they're to be complimented for that sensitivity and that consideration. And again, this was, like you said, there was a couple bumps in the road, but we got through it. And I think we got through it with an agreement that I think treats everybody fairly and recognizes the value that these men and women bring to our residents. So again, thank you for everybody involved in all your hard work. It's much appreciated.
Okay.
So with that, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay. Moving on, the next item is an ordinance. I'm going to ask Mr. David, and this is going to be a public hearing, but I'm asking Mr. Oh, did I skip one? Oh, sorry. Next item is not an ordinance. It is the interlocal agreement with Treasure Coast Planning to provide a public design charrette and community vision master plan. And I know we have a gentleman here from Treasure Coast, but I'm going to let Mr. Allen handle the introductions, and then we'll go on from there.
Thank you. So this item is to approve an interlocal agreement with Treasure Coast Planning Council to provide a public design charrette and community vision master plan. Staff recommends entering into an agreement with Treasure Coast to solicit public input, conduct public design charrette, analyze potential redevelopment strategies, provide recommendations for maintaining desired community scale character of the village. The study area for the project is roughly bounded by Palm Beach County, Martin County line north, U.S. to the east, the village limits to the south, and Old Dixie FEC corridor to the west. You have the scope of work in your packet. This has been, I guess, discussed on a couple separate workshops. I have reached out to 4 other communities that worked with Treasure Coast Planning in North Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, Green Acres, and Lake Worth Beach. All gave them glowing reviews. So with that, we do recommend Treasure Coast Planning Council for the charrette and community vision master plan. Mr. Dana Little is here, can answer any specific questions you have. We have budgeted the amount for this. You know, there will be some other ancillary charges, such as, you know, any facility or any, you know, drinks and food that's provided. You know, we're estimating somewhere probably another $5,000 or so to go along with this that we have in our operating budget, but this amount is budgeted, and Mr. Dana Little can answer any questions you may have.
Okay, council. Again, I'm going to start next to me this time, Mr. Stone, Vice Mayor Stone.
No, I'm excited that you're here today and that we're talking about this, and I hope we approve it. I have no questions.
Thank you very much.
Molly?
Yeah, I just have some questions on getting public participation, because we're going through Parks Master Plan right now, and the public turnout isn't fabulous. And I don't know if we could do anything more than they are. I mean, we have every event they're going to, you know, coming flyers in the mail, social media, our website, I mean, everything you can possibly think of. So how do you get people here? Because it's a lot of money to spend if we don't end up having good public participation.
Right, that's an excellent question. And by the way, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, thank you for having me this evening and hearing this item. I've actually been in touch with Nilsa Zacharias, who's not only your town planner, but also running that effort. And I think she's going to be part of our team, hopefully, going forward. So she'll be able to bring that, you know, experience with her. So we'll utilize those same elements, I think, in terms of reaching out. It's always tough in the fall because there's so many things going on. But one of the reasons why I'm so excited not only to be working with you here in the village, but to actually be back in person and doing an on-site physical in-person charrette, what we're going to do is we're going to set up an office that'll be open from 9 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, somewhere within this vicinity. That will be open to the public. So in addition to having a Saturday workshop, and in addition to all of the social media and flyers and email blasts and links on the website, we're gonna set up camp here with our team so that people can come in. And I find that that is also an excellent way to maintain and actually build a sense of authorship within the community for the effort. So that's the best I can give you. I mean, I know that Nilsa's doing, I think, probably her best, her whole team. And, you know, we're in sort of strange times these days. You know, everybody's getting back out finally. But we'll do everything in our power, working with your staff and the manager, to make sure that we, you know, leave every stone unturned, I think is the right way to put that.
Okay, and then in regards to the schedule and when this would start, I know, Jeremy, you had mentioned just before maybe starting after the new year, so there's some space between the parks, you know, planning and this. It might be a little much for residents to do them so close together. So I know this showed fourth quarter, like starting at the end of this year, but I guess I'd like to talk about schedule, when we would ideally want to start it.
And Dana and I kind of touched on it a little bit. I think we can do some of the work ahead of time with some staff interviews and some stakeholder interviews. And then I don't think we're talking about, and I'm just looking at the schedule on site, the actual charrette process won't start until March or April. And so that'll give us some time between the Parks Master Plan. And so that way there's not confusion with that. So we have kind of filtered that process already a little bit. So there'll be a lot that we'll be doing the next couple months leading up to it.
Okay, and I think you said the ancillary cost for this process is around $5,000 for us. What about after this is over and anything we have to incorporate into our code?
So it depends how many, what kind of recommendations come from this process. Obviously Nilsa will be a part of this team, and she is contracted by the village. So I don't anticipate like a huge spike or any kind of major, charges or fees that we'll have to incur. Obviously there might be some legal, but we have contracts with both of them. So I don't anticipate, it's hard to anticipate anything outside of the budget process that we have, because I'm guessing if this process is ending in September is the council, then we'd be able to budget for it in the next budget cycle. So we'll have some recommendations if we see that the recommendations are over the top and that we're going to have to do some some major revisions to our code. Then we'll beef up the attorney and Nilsa's cost accordingly. But it's hard to project that outside of our budget.
Okay, no other questions.
Lori?
So that's interesting. So you're going to have a point of location for residents to go to at mostly all times. Is that what you're saying? When you say you set up an office?
Yes, the charrette proper term, at least in my experience and my career, has been an on-site process, meaning that we establish a temporary office. We bring our team of architects, engineers, whoever, Nilsa, her team, and we basically work.
Okay.
Like it could be in this space. I don't know. We need to figure out where that space is, but it needs to be very public, very easily accessible, a place that everybody knows, so that we basically have an open studio. And we'll be
I
there.
agree with all that, and I actually think that might be one of the elements we might be missing is the accessible hours for residents to go to. They do probably feel a little lost right now if they're not clicking on a link or filling out a paper or going to one of the events. So I appreciate that, and I'd be eager to see how that turns out. My other question is with your staff. I'm assuming because you have done other municipalities that they are very aware of the sunshine law, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so us council members can't always go and essentially override one of the sessions. Your team is in charge of moderating the session with residents, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they're aware of the procedures of how things operate, and that, if we tend to get excited and forget, that we could be reminded that we need to let your team do the job.
Okay, that's a good point. That's never actually been brought up to me before regarding a charrette, but no, that's excellent.
We are a very small village, so it's
Right.
sometimes hard to not act like a village family, and you get very involved, and everyone knows everybody, and
Sure.
It's very diligent for us, all five of us, to consciously remember to step back and let who's in charge of the operations of a certain project to take the lead on that, and we
Very
need
good.
to wait for the results.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Although you can go and observe.
Yes, I just want to make sure that his team will be able to fully run these sessions and not have any kind of interception.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, and I'm assuming that they were very aware of it because they've done other municipalities. Again,
Yeah.
we are much smaller than some of the other ones that you guys have done. And again, we are such a small little village, and we get so excited, and
I
everyone
understand.
knows everybody, and
Just if this helps with any clarification, there will be a formal kickoff workshop on Saturday, and that will be advertised, and everybody, of course, is invited. And usually my experience is that council members know the sunshine law better than most, and so they tend to operate in accordance with that. It doesn't mean you can't be there and observe or even communicate with the team or whatever, but obviously you're not talking about business amongst yourselves. The following days, though, are unstructured.
and that it's just the studio or the office, whatever you'd like to call it, with us working there and running out and taking photographs or measurements and that type of thing, is open to the public to come in and observe and chat whenever they want, as well as you. So thank you for that advice, and I think that's a good matter of decorum. And we'll
Well,
be
thank you. I'm
aware of
excited
that.
to see how this goes.
Yes.
Do you happen to know what the maybe average would be of things that have been changed and put into the redevelopment plan through these charrettes and stuff? How many revisions are typically made through this process on an average?
I'm not trying to evade your question, but there's such a wide spectrum. I think that we're at a great advantage here because, number one, you are a small village. Number two, we're focusing on the commercial corridors. And number three, your staff planner, Nilsa, is going to be part of our team. And so that should make the transition from recommendations to implementation as far as the code goes pretty seamless, and I'm expecting that. But, you know, as I like to say, one of these master plans, it's not a single project. It is a laundry list of projects that are identified, that are prioritized. So there could be some capital improvement elements that you look at, that you get into your budget over time. It's not a matter of implementing it all at once. The code, I think, at this, you know, the way we've structured the agreement is that, you know, recommendations for the comprehensive plan and the code are very important to this, so that we get, you know, some of the land development regulations in place, ready for redevelopment on these commercial corridors. And we'll make sure that we have that, you know, really as ready as we can to just implement into your codes when the time comes.
So do y'all do any follow-up of how many revisions are made through this process? I'm just curious as the effectiveness of the charrette, and, you know, and how many people actually take the information and actually incorporate it and make actual changes to it. Do all municipalities make changes, or some people take the information and put it on a shelf? I mean, so do you have any kind of historical data and I'm not asking you to be precise.
Sure,
I mean, it'd be unrealistic for me to expect you to be able to pull a certain percentage and be 100% accurate and stuff on it, but can you kind of give me some general background of the effectiveness of the charrette and how many people actually take the information and use it and put it in place and actually get something out of it?
It's interesting. I had this conversation with the council in Boynton not too long ago, and the same question was asked. You know, number one, the degree to which a master plan can be implemented, of course, has a lot to do with whether or not that plan and those recommendations, A, are feasible, and whether they reflect the community's desires. You know, I think that if we came in here and said you need to be corridors of 40-story buildings, that's probably not going to go anywhere. But ultimately, it's incumbent upon the council members and staff to implement these recommendations. I've worked in cities. I can tell you the city of Delray Beach today, they still stand up and hold the 2000 master plan that we did for Atlantic Avenue and the corridors there, and point to it and sometimes get us in trouble because you said this 20 years ago and why isn't it happening? But they've been implementing that for 20 years, 21 years now. Some cities don't implement any of it. And ultimately, I think what'll happen is that we will come back with draft recommendations for this plan and what we think you need to do in terms of implementing a vision for the community. And you're gonna have opportunities to check off on that and say, as well as the community. This does reflect what we've heard, and these do seem like reasonable steps. And this is how other communities have actually implemented these sort of items. And ultimately, you will sign off on whether or not that plan is acceptable. Then, you know, it's a matter of chipping away at it and changing policy, changing the land development regulations. In some cases, maybe incenting redevelopment. I don't know yet. I don't know what the answers are here. But we'll try to align the best possible tools with what the needs of your community are.
Yeah. I certainly am not trying to hold you responsible for the effectiveness of what the council does with the revisions and stuff that are presented by the public in the whole charrette deal and stuff, so don't take the question.
No, it's not. It's a perfectly reasonable question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Okay. Public might have a comment?
Go ahead.
No, I think the public might have a comment.
Mr. Bradford?
I
Tom Bradford, 44 Chestnut Trail, Tequesta. I wanted to give Bruce a real-life answer relative to Tequesta and a charrette. I think Dana worked in part on the 1989 charrette that we had in Tequesta, and the outcomes that came from that were the following. The old public shopping center that is now called Paradise Park was completely demolished, and a roadway put through the middle of that property. The Zuccarelli building where the exercise place is located today was built, and the mixed-use zoning district was created and adopted, and everything you see on the north side of Tequesta Drive from the PNC Bank to Old Dixie was all redeveloped based on the changes that Dana and others had suggested to the village back in 1989.
Well, thank you. That's very encouraging that hopefully we'll get some, that sort of effect out of the one that we're fixing to do. So thank you very much. That makes me feel a lot better about it.
The other positive note, I think, in terms of public meetings going forward is by the time we get ready for the charrette, the community center should be open. So we'll be able to use that facility, which I think will be hopefully very beneficial in terms of bringing people in and staging, these activities. So, okay, can I have a motion, unless anybody's got any other comments, to move this forward?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We'll
Have
look
a good
forward to
evening.
working with you. Okay, item 12, finally, this is an ordinance, and I'm going to ask the village attorney to take us through this.
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 1621, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 70, Taxation, Article 1 in general, creating an entirely new section 70-1 entitled Additional Homestead Exemption for Persons 65 years and older, to authorize an additional homestead tax exemption for qualifying senior citizens whose household income does not exceed a certain amount, providing that the village clerk shall deliver a copy of this ordinance to the county by the required date, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 70 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date, and for other purposes. This is second reading. As the title indicates, this would provide new code in the village that would give an additional $25,000 homestead exemption to certain individuals 65 and older that meet certain residency and household income requirements, and it would be applicable to Village of Tequesta tax as opposed to county or other taxes. But then this is second reading. There have been no changes to the document since you saw it last month at first reading.
Okay, and this is a public hearing as an ordinance, so it's open for any public comment?
I just want to thank you for deciding to bring Tequesta residents that will benefit from this amendment.
You're welcome. Okay, so no other comments. Let's close to the public. Open to the council. Any comments?
Oh, I said it last time. I think this is one of the greatest things we've done this year.
I would concur with that. Okay. So can I have a motion to approve, please? Let's close to the council. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item 13. Let me make sure I get this right. Yep. 13, this is a resolution of the village authorizing, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. This Tequesta Fire Rescue requests the council approve the attached stuff and proposal for the purchase of 2 fire trucks, a pumper, and then also an aerial, which is a quint, and the amounts of $735,830 and $1,129,758. Chief True, floor is yours.
Okay. Mr. Manager, were you going to lead, or did you want me to run with this?
You can go with it. I'll jump in where needed.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, we discussed this at the last workshop. The presentation is going to be something you're familiar with. What you have before you is a memo requesting that you approve the purchase of the 2 trucks that were mentioned. It's a 2022 Sutphen Custom Pumper for $735,830. It's a 2022 Sutphen Custom Aerial Model SL75 for $1,129,758. Total cost of both apparatus is $1,865,588. 0 cents. You'll find that in Exhibit B under the proposal. The vehicles would replace the oldest vehicles in our fleet, the 1994 Sutphen Ladder, which is one of the original trucks to this department, and the 2003 Sutphen Pumper, currently identified as Engine 285. The vehicles are designed and, with crew familiarity and continuity in the design. The replacement aerial, the 75-foot Quint, is specifically designed to be able to handle calls in our response area. In other words, we took a lot of time to just ask for the vehicle that we need to take care of fires and emergencies here in Tequesta. The financing, this would be a lease purchase. We're looking at a 10-year lease is what we're looking at doing. Based on a 2.5% over 10 years, we would basically be looking at a yearly payment of $214,847.90. At a rate of 3%, it would result in a payment of $220,237.38. Finance can be offset with the completion of a lease on our current engine, Engine 85. That's a 2013 Sutphen engine. It'll go off the books in 2023, and that was for $47,800 per year. I can go ahead and go to the first slide. Okay, what the first slide up there is showing you is basically our fleet replacement schedule. So the first thing is they're talking about Truck 85, our current 1994 Sutphen aerial platform. Expected life was between 20 and 25 years. So between 2014 and 2019, that was the scheduled replacement date. The engines have always been on a 10-year replacement schedule. So starting in 1993, we bought an engine, we bought another one in 03, we bought one in 13. And what happens is we keep them for 20. 10 years is frontline, 10 years is reserve. So every 10 years, we buy another truck, we get rid of the oldest truck. The rescues that you see on there, we went ahead and replaced the rescue, as you well know. We got that truck in 2021, so we have a brand new rescue that's working great for us. Our other rescue is a 2010, so we will be looking at a rescue truck probably in about 5 years, okay, 25, 26. If we go, can I go to the next slide? Okay, maintenance. One of the reasons I'm here is just the significant uptick in maintenance, both the work orders and the out-of-service time. As you can see, our out-of-service time on Truck 85 is significant, as it's only in service about 3/4 of the time. Engine 85, our frontline apparatus has now reached a point where it's down to 87% of the time, which means we're continuing to rely on older vehicles. I believe in the workshop I did discuss a recent event where we had both trucks out of service for lengthy periods of time, and we were really relying on what is an 18-year-old truck. And that can be a little scary if you're in my shoes, not knowing whether we're going to have the truck to be able to go down the road or not. My goal is always to be able to provide the very best for the residents of Tequesta, and that's why I'm asking for these trucks. Unless there's a question about the rescues, I'm going to move on to the next slide, and we can come back to that. So a 20-year view. The first box shows you that in fiscal year 14 through 19, we should have been looking at the aerial. We did not. Fiscal year 20 shows the purchase of the rescue. Fiscal year 23, this year coming up, we're requesting that you approve the purchase of the aerial platform and, of course, the engine at that 1.865588 number. If you approve this, you will not have to buy another engine or aerial until fiscal year 2033, or in 21, looking at 22 right now. So why am I up here so early? It gets back to the build time. The build time on these trucks, due to supply chain issues and just the overall demand for fire trucks right now, has created a situation where we're looking at 16 to 22 months, and it's getting longer really by the day, because I'm not the only fire chief that sees that there's a supply chain issue. In other words, as soon as you see that there's an issue, all the people that are involved in the business, every fire chief and every agency is going to make the same assumption. I have to get my truck now. And the longer we wait, the further behind we get. So the big thing I would take away from this slide is this puts us back on course. This gets us a ladder truck. This gets us an engine in line with the current replacement policy that was established by Jim Winan years ago. This creates a situation where we won't have to buy another engine or ladder truck until 2033, which is some time off. Next slide, please. Okay. In closing, obviously I've mentioned a little bit about reliability. The fleet's aging, especially in terms of the ladder truck. Ladder truck is again, it's a 1994. When that truck is out of service, sometimes it's a question of finding the part. Sometimes it's a question of manufacturing the part. They simply don't have it. It's harder and harder to keep in service. The build time, again, 16 to 22 months. And then, you know, pardon me, Hugh, I'm going to step into the finance world here a little bit, but interest rates are currently pretty low. The inflation rate is pretty high. Now, again, I'm no economist, but I do remember that when the inflation rate goes up, right, we're going to pay more money for this thing. I don't want to see us pay more money for it. We need to do it now. I need the tools to give to the guys so that they can take care of the people, and that's simply what I'm asking for. The 2 trucks so that we can take care of the residents of Tequesta moving forward. I think my bottom line here is, you know, when seconds count, there's nothing more important than reliability. Everything has to work. Firefighter has to know what he's doing. The captain has to make good decisions. The truck has to start. The truck has to get us there. The ladder has to be able to go up. The tools on the truck have to work. Without one of those things, if any one of those things breaks down, the whole system breaks down. We have a pretty good history of having incredibly good response times. Imagine how long it takes to shift from a broken down truck to a truck that's behind it so that you can go down the road. I don't want to see us in that situation, so I'm urging you to approve the purchase of both vehicles wholeheartedly.
Okay, thank you, Chief. It's open for council discussion. Bruce, I'm going to start down at your end this time.
Before I get off the mic, I did respond to all your questions, so again, if you have anything on that, please fire away.
Well, I think it's finally going to happen, Chief. I think you've been after this thing for a while. But I got one question for you. Does it come with a Dalmatian?
It does not come with a Dalmatian. If that'll help move it along, though, I might be able to donate a Dalmatian.
Okay.
Well, now that you say that, you know, I'm
Puppies.
throwing that pointer out. I don't have any more questions.
Molly, I know you brought some issues up last time around, and I know he addressed them in writing, but
Yeah, thank you for all the backup with the questions answered. That was really great. Just a quick question. This kind of leads into the next agenda item, but I think it is part of making a decision on this item. Is a deposit required, or you just place the order, no deposit required?
No, ma'am, they just need a purchase order in order to secure these rates, these prices, start building the truck. So with a purchase order, we have to have the money in the budget, show the expenditure and show the revenue. So we'll have the loan proceeds as a revenue. The expenditure will be there, so it's a wash. We won't receive revenue, we won't expend the money, but we have to be able to show it in there as for the purchase order.
Time the order.
So we don't actually pay anything until we receive the truck. By then, prior to that, a couple months prior to that, we'll go through the financing process. We'll bring you guys back something that you guys would approve for financing at that point. It will count toward our unassigned fund balance. However, when we do get the loan proceeds, that'll release that unassigned fund balance.
Okay, so we're showing the loan proceeds even though we don't have them yet.
Right, same thing with expenditures. We'll show the expenditures even though we're not gonna expend the money. So it's both.
Government budget.
Okay.
Yes.
So what happens if we don't get the loan?
You don't get the fire truck.
Then we would,
Can we cancel
then we'd
the
have
order?
to figure out if we could get out of it, what our cost would be, or the other part is we cash fund it out of our unassigned fund balance. So, because we would be tied to that, so we could do it that way. I would say there's probably some combination at that point, if we had to, of unassigned fund balance and probably some of our surtax funds, and we try to, staff would just have to go to work, figure out a way to make it work if for some reason we didn't get a loan. I'm not sure why we wouldn't. I know we've already done some preliminary work With like the Florida League of Cities, just kind of getting some estimates. We feel good about it. I mean, unless something happens with the market.
Okay, those are my only questions.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the municipality not getting a loan, just for some obvious reasons there. If we have a problem getting a loan, then there's other problems that we need to worry about. So thank you for answering those questions. You did confirm a couple of my assumptions, so I appreciate that. Is this a tool?
I actually learned a lot about ISO and how insurance works.
It probably wasn't fair the last time I was looking it up, and I could see that State Farm didn't do that, doesn't use it, and some other things. So I was like, okay. But with that being said, is this a tool that you need to be able to provide excellent service for the residents?
Yes.
Fair enough. Thank you.
And I don't have anything to add. You know I'm fully supportive of this, and I think we're in a position now, unlike in the past when we had financial constraints, where we can move forward on this, get back on schedule, and get our folks the tools that they need. And when they have the tools, they're safer, they're able to do their jobs better, and they're able to take care of all of us better. So, okay, so can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, moving on to item 14. This is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2021-2022 general fund budget, providing an effective date. And for other purposes, I'm going to turn to you, Mr. Allen, I know this ties back in, so.
I mean, similar to the same item, this is just the budget amendment that will show the expenditures and the loan proceeds as part of the budget, so we will be able to do a purchase order.
So addressing the prior conversation
That's right.
with
Yep.
Councilwoman Young.
Exactly.
Okay, any council discussion on this item?
I do have a statement. When we do go to get a loan for this, that's when we will actually lock in those rates. And that's not planned we're not planning on doing that until 20 months maybe?
Right, the interest rates for the loan, yeah, we're not locking those in yet until we actually start to do that process.
So can we accrue anything over the next year or so? We'll have time, especially next budget, this interest rates potentially will be going up, anything greater than 2.5%, that we actually self-fund that portion of it?
Hugh, will you jump in anytime? I'm not sure 100% understand your question, so maybe Hugh understood it better than I did.
I think what you're trying to do is secure the low interest rate now, because by 2023 rolls around, we could be at 4.5%.
Right, we're not going to be able to secure it now.
And we would,
So you're saying start making the payments now, get the loan, get the loan.
I think he's got a valid point with the fact that, interest rates should or could possibly increase over the next 18 months or so, or 24 months. And
Well, another way to look at it would be to monitor the rates, and if you start to see them creep up, then move at that point in time, which is kind of a blending of it's a blend of the two approaches.
Well, I would think that you would probably, because you could get behind the 8 ball though, a little bit. If you're not
diligent,
have something in place already, to where you could go ahead and say you start seeing a bump up, or you're starting to see some stuff, in the
They're not going to get any
that they're talking about, bumping up the interest rates. Because, there's a strong likelihood, and I concur with Councilman, that it possibly could jump up.
What do you think, Hugh?
The Vice Mayor had a very strong point, very valid point, rather, in terms of if we assume that the inflation rate will increase significantly more than the rate of interest. Currently, we're projecting a 2.5% to 3% annual percentage rate. If we assume, say, a 6%, or I think the chief was saying 10% inflation rate, one option which we definitely have the financial advisor on this is that we could move forward with the loan as soon as we have issued the PO. We could move forward with the lease, bid it out, put the funds in escrow until we take receipt of the apparatus. And after we have retained title to the equipment, we can then draw from the escrow funds. But the lender will not, of course, release the funds until we take title to the vehicles, which is 2 years down the road. But
Well, let
to
me
your
ask you this.
point, Yes, Councilman.
So could you just borrow the money and not necessarily borrow the money for the purchase, but just borrow the 1.8 and then secure it and then use those funds, and then that way it wouldn't, you're not sitting there, making payments on a vehicles that you don't actually have, and be able to utilize those funds. And then when it comes time, then you go out and you replace that loan with replace the money like that. You see what I'm saying?
Let us, to answer your question in terms of borrowing, they won't let us borrow in that respect, because the biggest issue, one of which would be arbitrage. We would be earning a slight amount of return. The risk-free rate of interest is rather negligible, perhaps 4 basis points at this point. But what we would be doing more so, if we were trying to beat the rate of inflation, we would move forward with bidding out and obtaining the lease proceeds. We would put it into an escrow funds, and as soon as we take receipt of the vehicles, we would then draw from the funds. But the lender would not allow us to take possession of those lease proceeds until we present proof that we took title to the.
But you would lock in the rate. And
To
so the cumulative interest.
But to the Vice Mayor's point, we do have that in mind, and we have the financial advisor from Hilltop Securities. They work that into their projection as well. And we'll be working closely with the fire chief. If we project that the rate of inflation is going to ramp up significantly, we'll move into action and engage our financial advisor.
But if you were to commit early, the cumulative interest rate that would be paid over the life of the loan would remain the same. It's just we'd be advancing it a couple of years earlier, or whatever duration of time we move it forward, and we don't have that tail then at the very end.
Yeah, we have that factored in.
Okay.
We're looking at 24 months, so at 3%, I forget what the annual rate of, what the annual total debt service, but the interest component, by and large, would not exceed the rate of inflation.
Right.
Yeah, so we have that in the model, the cost model, but at this point, that's something we'll definitely discuss with the financial advisor, and he will bake it into his recipe to advise us on how to move forward.
But if I'm understanding what he's saying correctly, is that if you borrow the money way in advance, you're going to be paying interest on that money for an extended period of time. So that pure interest money would probably offset the additional interest that you would pay if you bought it at the time that it was ready to be purchased. You see what I'm saying?
There's a break-even point.
You definitely
yeah. So if you borrow it in advance and you have to pay interest on it for 18 to 24 months, then you've kind of negated the benefit of getting the money early, because you're sitting there paying interest on that 1.8 million for 18 to 24 months.
Precisely. He works that into his model.
So I challenge you to figure out a way to lock in that interest rate.
Let me add
we
a
do
little.
take that in stride, and we'll definitely look into that.
Because another 2% on 1.8 million over the course of that loan is a lot of interest. And that's a very great point that Councilman Kyle brought up there. So I think it's a great idea.
Let me add a little to this. This isn't, obviously if the interest rates start to go up, we start to see that, our financial advisor, but we have this worked into kind of our 5-year plan, and financially it makes sense to take on the payment when in the trucks, come in 18 to 21 months. So, moving it up to now would, puts us in a little bit of a bind, because that's not what we planned for. So we'd love to stay with the plan. Obviously, like Hugh says, if the financial advisor tells us the rates are going up, we'll go into action and, pivot a little bit. But we'd love to stay with the original plan, which is, not pay for them for another, 16 months or so. So it's factored into our long-term plan right now.
And just to quickly add to the village manager, we look at the variables involved in the process. the chief is currently locking in the price of the apparatus.
Right.
And the financial advisor on the other end is projecting the increase in the interest rate over the intervening years. And he projects a 50 basis point movement between 2.5% to 3%. So we feel that paying the interest over 2 years is not going to be more advantageous versus the 50 basis point swing, assuming his projections are on point.
And you know, the other thing is, well, none of us have a crystal ball. There is going to be tremendous pressure, in spite of what's happening with inflation, to keep rates low.
That's true.
For a variety of reasons, not the least to mention is the federal debt. Because if you get a 2 or 3, 2%, 3% kick up in interest rates on that federal debt, you're going to see the federal budget in a world of hurt.
So I will say it might surprise you, but I would see as interest rates rising, might be an opportunity to use your unassigned fund balance for this type of purpose to get your fire trucks and save. So I know, surprise.
But sometimes you have to be nimble with your financial planning. I don't disagree with you on that. Okay. Can we have a motion to approve this item?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, moving on to new business. The first item, Chief Shrieve, it's you again. This is the approval of a purchase of a Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle to, I believe, become the chief's vehicle, correct?
That is correct. So you're looking at a memo to approve the purchase of the 2021 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle. It will become the fire chief's vehicle. The current fire chief's vehicle is a 2011 Tahoe. It will basically become the inspector's vehicle and a runaround for our guys going off to conferences and various training assignments. This is through a Sourcewell contract, 2021. You can see the rest of the number in the memo. The price of the vehicle, you'll see, is $42,696.22. It would be paid for out of the American Rescue Plan Act. It was budgeted as a capital item for this year. You'll probably ask me, and so I'm going to try to jump ahead here and hopefully answer a question I think you're thinking as Chief, why does it cost so much to get this vehicle? Well, this vehicle actually was already built, and they delivered it to a fire department along with another one that looked identical to it, and that fire department said, wait a minute, we only ordered one. So this one is currently on a lot in Florida. As soon as I get approval, I can get a PO. I could probably have the vehicle here within a couple of days, and more importantly, it comes with a complete light package, which is usually right around $5,000 based on the last SUV that I had done. So the light package is in. I would send it down to Palm Beach County. They put in the radio. There should be no cost or you're talking $100 to attach the radio into it. And the only other thing I'd have to do is put some stripes on it. So this is budgeted for.
So you're saying
I'm asking for approval for the truck.
You're saying it's a good deal?
I think it's a very good deal.
And I know you've been
given the fact that we can't find vehicles right now, I think it's amazing that this vehicle was on a lot that nobody wanted, and I looked at it, and it fits everything that we need.
Okay. And I know you've been asking for a vehicle for a while. What's going to happen to the old one?
Again, I'm going to turn that over to our fire inspector, so he'll use that. And we'll also use it for going to training assignments, going to some of these, the meetings, like we previously discussed. Our training officer goes to his meeting once a month. We got EMS meetings that we go to a couple times a month. We've got conferences that we send people to. This is a much better vehicle for that to occur in rather than, say, take the utility. It'll also be the backup vehicle for me when hopefully the new Ford Explorer has to go for an oil change or something. I would simply transfer to the other vehicle.
Any other questions for the chief?
No, I think it's a heck of a deal, price-wise.
Okay.
Didn't we budget and purchase a truck for the inspector last fiscal year?
No, sir.
Didn't we get a truck for him?
No, a couple of years ago, we had 2 trucks on the agenda. The truck
we backed off one.
One was cut.
Yep.
In
was
fact,
3
it was
years,
my
4 years
choice
ago.
which one to cut.
Yep.
I cut my own vehicle.
Yep.
We did the utility first because the utility moves equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, a lot of times for training exercises, but equipment and manpower back and forth to scene. So that's what we needed.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Moving on to item 16. This is a resolution 5221, a resolution of the Village of Tequesta, the Village of Village Council. Thank you, Chief. Of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2021 budget by increasing revenues and expenditures in the amount of $132,939 to recognize the receipt of coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security CARES Act funds from Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Mr. Dunkley?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Basically, this item is recognizing the fact that we received from the county $132,000 in reimbursement for the first tranche of relief funds from the federal government. Just as a matter of history, this first tranche, which is called CARES, which acronymically it's long and drawn out, Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And so what the federal government did was, they said, okay, we're going to, for immediate relief, provide these funds to entities with populations exceeding 500,000 residents. So, of course, a lot of governments did not have populations of that size. So in retrospect, we became subrecipients of those governments, including the county that had met that population threshold. So in fiscal 20, we expended eligible funds for which we were reimbursed. And now in fiscal 21, which because of the continued pandemic, the expenditures incurred for the coronavirus, we're taking those funds and helping to defray the costs such as overtime, legal expenses, and the like, to help to cushion the blow for all of the related expenses incurred during fiscal 21. And essentially, we are recognizing the receipt of the reimbursement as well as those expenditures which were incurred for fiscal 21 rather. And that's pretty much what this amendment seeks to reflect.
Right,
I have nothing else to add.
I'm sorry. Okay, open for council discussion. Any questions, any comments? Everybody's good? Okay, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Mayor, just,
Yes,
just
sir.
my point is, thank you to the chief and his staff, and of course, finance, you and his staff for tracking all that. I mean, during the middle of the pandemic, ordering supplies, overtime, just tracking all that stuff was just a task in itself without extra staff. So appreciate those guys and their work to get us that money back.
Well said. Okay, moving on to item 17. This is to approve a donation agreement between the Village of Tequesta and Thomas, and I'm not going to pronounce this right, Subladorio, I think?
Thomas Splendorio.
Splendorio,
Yes.
For crushed rock. Mr.
Yes.
Chambers?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. The village was approached by resident Thomas Splendorio. He lives at 12 El Portal Drive. And he had a project at the house, and he ended up with some crushed rock left over in his driveway. And he contacted the manager's office. I met with him. There's a picture of the crushed rock right here in the driveway. There's about 1.5 yards of crushed rock that he's willing to donate to the village that we can certainly use as a road base, repairing sidewalk. There's plenty of usages for it. So it's up to the council's discretion to approve the donation.
I'm curious, is that crushed coquina, or is it recycled concrete, or what kind of rock is it?
Shell rock.
It is?
Yep.
Does he have his own mine or something?
I'm not sure where he obtained the shell rock, but he had a project at the house. And
Oh, so he just had some left over.
He just has it left over. He's been unable to give it away to the neighbors, and so he reached out to the village to see if we could utilize it.
Huh.
And we utilize the shell rock all the time, crushed
Sure.
rock.
Yeah.
So it's a simple donation.
Yeah.
So simple donations still require us to actually vote
Pick
on
it up.
and approve
Approve it.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item 18. Now, this is, Molly, where you wanted to, was it 18?
Yeah.
That you wanted to bring in item 3, subsection 6 out of the consent agenda, so we'll tackle both of these items together. So this has to do with the Wind and Sons fiscal year 22 road improvement. Mr. Chambers, you want to tackle both items?
Yes, we have a couple capital improvement projects on the agenda here. One is for road improvements, one is for sidewalk. And the item that Councilmember Young pulled was in reference to the grant that we've applied for.
Correct.
So just to give an update on the status, we've submitted the grant application, they've received the grant, we've received the application, and they are now in the evaluation stage. So hopefully by April, early summer, we will hear something about the grant. The total amount of the grant is $14.5 million. So if we are successful, the goal is to take those funds and put it into drainage improvements and road improvements in country club community. If we're not successful in obtaining the grant, we have to come up with another plan. And how are we going to fix the drainage and the roads in country club community? So I have a brief presentation here that talks about the roads and the 20-year plan and where we're going with our funding this year on the roads. If you move to the next slide, this is what's in our approved budget right now. We have in roadway improvements in the capital improvement fund, we have $359,590. We have also in the capital improvement fund for pathways and sidewalk improvements, we have $60,000. We have an additional $255,000 for roadway improvements, which is in the capital projects fund. So item number 18, which is in front of you right now, is proposal from Wind and Sons based on our current contract rates for road improvements totaling $405,480. If you just bounce up to the next slide. This is the map of the 20-year plan, 20-year assessment, or however soon we can get the roads done that we have funding available, right? So last year we started in Area 1, and if you just jump to the next slide, we completed last year everything in the green, which is in Area 1, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Daly, Lee, Fiesta, Pineview, and South Cypress. The proposal we have from Wind and Sons right now will continue in Area 1, which is in the magenta or purple color there, and we will mill and resurface Beacon, Church, Franklin, Ridgewood, Pine Tree Circle, Hickory Hill Road, Dogwood Ridge, Hemlock, and then a portion of Willow Road. Included in the proposal, if you jump to the next slide, same as we did last year, we'll be installing a flush header curb at all our intersections, all our turns. That'll allow for proper drainage evenly into the swale. It also provides some stability at the edge of road and protect the right-of-way as well. That's a major problem, as you all see throughout the village. If you bounce to the next slide. We're also, in this project, we are replacing 13 driveway aprons. They currently sit lower than the road profile. So those aprons will be replaced to meet the existing road profile. And again, that will protect the edge of road from cracking. You see, throughout the village, you see the edge of road cracking everywhere. And this is one of the examples of why this happens in front of folks' driveways. If you go to the next slide, that's the standard approved driveway apron detail that we utilized last year and will continue to use on this project. If you go to the next slide. This is the item that was pulled on the consent agenda to discuss about core sampling as well. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't pull this item, did you, Molly?
No.
You didn't pull this item. So in part of the road improvement projects, road improvement work this year, we're going to take a portion of the funding and go into the country club community and start taking core sampling. So this actually ties into the grant money as well. If we're not successful and we don't secure that money, how are we going to move forward, right? This is Area 1 and Area 2, all within the country club community. So what we'll do is we'll go in there and we'll do core sampling in 18 different locations. I have the locations listed there. Depending on the results we get from the pavement cores, we're then going to determine where we're going to bore at 15 feet below the road surface as well. See what type of organics or muck is under the road base and see what's affecting the road base. So based on that information from the core drilling, that will help us and the engineer determine if we're not successful in obtaining the grant, how are we going to move forward with improvements in the country club. This is going to help us move in that direction. So what you have there is just a list of the different areas where we'll perform core sampling. So that's the second phase of the project that we're going to start this year. So area 1 is, again, the magenta or the purple. Area 2 is the green, but we're going to start the core sampling this year and not wait to see what happens with the grant.
Well, I know we've
So
talked
we'll
about
have
this
that information.
before, but the core sampling is only going to give you the soil conditions and stuff underneath the asphalt. Am I correct on that?
That's correct.
So what will you do about if we've got drainage and stuff, pipe and so forth, that's possibly failing, creating the depressions and stuff in the road?
We're also working with Loxahatchee at the same time we're core drilling. They're going to start Loxahatchee's
So you're
going to
going
start
to TV the
TVing all
lines?
their pipe to see if we have some issues there. They haven't done that in some time.
Right.
So they're going to start doing that as well.
Okay, so that'll all kind of go simultaneously?
Correct.
Okay.
But they're doing that on their dime, on their time.
Mhm.
But after the new year, they're going to start doing that as well.
Okay.
So we'll have that information from Loxahatchee. I would tend to think, there may be an issue here or there where there's a breach in one of the pipe, but I really think you have a combination of the water table, probably some muck under the road base, and probably some poor compaction when the sanitary sewer system was put in,
That's what I
years
think,
ago.
yeah.
But we'll find out.
Yeah, probably a combination
We'll
of
have more
all.
information, and like I said, if we don't secure the grant, at least we'll have some information and come up with a plan of how we're going to move forward.
Mhm.
It's going to be a daunting task because it's going to be quite expensive.
Right.
If you just go to the next slide, I just wanted to include some pictures in here. This is not a storm event. This is just a normal rainy day in the country club community. That's El Portal. That's me walking in about 12 inches of water. That's fairway east and west. And that just jumps to the next agenda item for sidewalk improvements. But
Other questions?
so the first item you have there is number 18 for the road improvements, which that would be the next phase in area 1 to complete that area, and also the core sampling, which was approved on the consent agenda tonight.
So Doug, we talked in the past why the grant was specific to the areas that you illustrated there. So I'm assuming that is the grant amount we've applied for is the amount of funding that has been deemed necessary to complete all the work in those highlighted areas, correct? Will that give us all the funding we
Chairman,
need
if you could just go back to the map for a minute.
within the country club
It
community?
includes everything west of Country Club Drive. It does not include Starboard Way, everything
Starboard Way
east
where
of, it
trade
does not
lines.
include that.
Okay.
At that time, we were looking at all of the areas in the green in the country club community, and the total amount of the grant was somewhere around $24 million. And just a sense what they asked was too big at that time. And so we scaled it back and we focused on what was the most pressing issues and some of the worst roads in Tequesta, which is right there west of Country Club Drive.
Okay, so everything west
So
of
that
Country
would
Club
be
Drive.
the focused area.
That ask that we have is sufficient to fully address the issues that exist.
Correct. Now,
Based-
if we don't get the grant, we're going to have to scale
Understand.
back the project.
Understand.
Okay.
So.
So the first item that you have is.
Well, the first item we have is go back to the item that was pulled from the consent agenda and ask for a motion on that item.
The grant?
This would be on the grant and the funding for Kimberly Horn. So this is item 3, subsection 6, that was pulled from the consent agenda. Do I have a motion on that?
I just, quick comment,
Okay.
and so the presentation answered all my questions, and like you just talked about, the grant is for everything west of Country Club Drive, and agenda item 18 is for just some select area 1 areas. It's not even the rest of area 1 that's west of the river.
Correct. The core sampling was another
I mean,
item on
sorry.
the consent agenda that was approved earlier. Yeah.
But-
So those are the roads right there that you're approving on
Right,
item number 18.
and that's just for 18.
Right.
So in the future, it'd be helpful to maybe highlight like this roadmap with the agenda items, because I just know a lot of people from the public have their eyes on it.
Right.
So if it's not clear to us and then they don't, attend the council meeting or watch it and see the presentation, they're not gonna really understand what roads we're talking about.
Yeah,
So I
it's
just
easy enough
request
to
that
include the
going
map, you're
forward.
saying, include the map.
Yeah, include the map, maybe circle, highlight what
Sure.
roads we're talking about in each agenda item, just because I know a lot of people are really keeping their eye on this and are anxious to get the roads fixed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good suggestion.
You know I love my visuals. And the color coding. So I have a feedback for you from Tequesta Pines residents, because they are paying attention to these road projects, and they want to know why they are not getting core sampling on their roads, because they are very concerned about what's underneath their roads, and we all know they do have issues in that area. So I'm going to leave that to you to figure out how to answer their question.
Well, I can give you some feedback. Last year, our utility department fixed all the stormwater failures in that community, and Loxahatchee River District has also been doing that this past year. They still have some additional pipe to line in that community, and that's why we're only working on a couple of roads in that community. They're going to continue lining some pipe in the Pines, but in that specific area, all the pipe is lined in there, and last year, Matt and I teamed up and we fixed all the depressions in the road in that specific area. Now it just needs to be completed, milled and paved.
So would you guys not consider core sampling those, like certain areas in the Pines?
The Pines is a little bit different. So 95% of all the failures in the Pines was based on stormwater failures and sanitary sewer. We knew there were failures there. We were in there fixing the pipe. We were in there whether it was sanitary or stormwater. What we have in the country club, we have an undefined answer on what's happening there. 20 years ago, they put in the stormwater system, the sanitary sewer system. And over a period of time, the roads have gradually become worse and worse and worse. You can see right, just with a layperson's eyes, you can go in there and look at the top elevation of the manholes. They're higher than the road profile. And you all drive in there, you hit it every day. Well, it's like a speed bump, right? It slows you down. You hit it. So right off the bat, the profile of the manholes were too high. So we have to build the road up. Once we figure out what's under the road, what the base looks like, and what we have to do there, you have to build the road up to the manholes. So the Pines are a different situation. We know what the failures are there. And so all of those areas that we fixed between Loxahatchee River District and Matt, those roads are fine now. So it's just a matter of continuing to line the pipe that still has some failures or some breaches, and then go in there and do a temporary patch, and then get it on the schedule for a milling and paving.
Okay.
But that is, if you look at all the areas in the village, that would be the second area within the village that requires substantial road work.
Okay.
Laura, I was going to say, I know we asked the question when we were talking about the grants for the country club area, whether that could be extended into the Pines, and I think at the time, Doug, you had said that there were some unique elements to what was happening in the country club that made that grant eligible, but did not equally apply into the Pines
Sure,
area.
and even aside from the grant, there's a group of residents, and there is a person who's leading the group, and I will have you finish that conversation with her, because obviously you can explain it better than I can. I just want to make sure that they're being heard, and they are just asking right now, like, why are we not getting that?
Yeah.
So I'll have you finish that conversation
Yeah,
with
that would
her.
be great. Yeah, we have the same thing in the country club. There's about 15 residents that I'm in touch with continually about questions on what's happening there, what are we doing, and what's the plan. So.
Anybody else have anything to add, Kyle? No. Okay, so, thank you. Again, can we, motion to approve.
There might be some public comment.
Is there, Mr. Bradford?
Tom Bradford, 44 Chestnut Trail, Tequesta. It's really a question for Doug, but I know it's most appropriate to ask you.
That's fine.
If you look at that photo of the differential between height of road and height of driveway apron, isn't it really a function of the fact that in the past, the village has not milled and resurfaced? So why don't we make sure we mill and resurface for these lower roads that do exist, so that we don't have to raise aprons in the future, and we recycle asphalt in the course of doing milling? I don't know if everybody knows what milling means, but
I think it's probably a cost deal. If you don't have to mill it, that circumvents that cost if you just overlay it. then you don't have to pay for the milling. So milling's a big expense, and I would assume, and you can obviously correct me on that, but that's typically what happens.
We're milling as well. We're milling and resurfacing.
Are you? Yeah. But what I think you're saying in the past, it looks like you just overlaid and overlaid and overlaid, and of course,
Some
that's
areas,
common.
yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so a motion on what was consent agenda item 3, subsection 6. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now on item 18. Do I have a motion to approve item 18?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, item 19, Doug, again, this is you.
Yes. Item 19 is the second part for the sidewalk improvements. You go back, continue through there. Last year, we completed Phase 2 of Country Club sidewalk improvements. Big success out there with the residents. We're now in 2022 in the green. If you go to the next slide, this is the area south side of Tequesta Drive between Seabrook and Venus Avenue. There was actually, last year, there was a young boy who fell in that area. The sidewalk is really bad in that area between the oak trees right on top of the sidewalk. And he took a bad fall there last year. And so this has been on our radar to get this area fixed. Most of the sidewalk in this area is only 4 foot wide until you get down to Seabrook. And so we'll increase the width to 5 feet. There is a small section when you get just down to Seabrook. Matt has a project starting in about maybe 15 months to replace a water main. So that water main is going to run through the swale, through the grass, and when it gets to that corner there, to go south, the new water main is going to deflect over the sidewalk. So we're going to leave the last section. Hello?
You're done.
You're not on the timer. You're okay.
Anybody there?
Mr. Bradford was so efficient with his comments.
So as a portion, right before you get to Seabrook, we're most likely going to leave that because on the water main replacement, they're going to have to take that sidewalk out, so we don't want to replace it. So we have $60,000 budgeted for this fiscal year for sidewalk improvements. We're going to take the remaining funds that are going to be available here, and we're going to move that to the next area, which is on Seabrook Road, and we have about 17,000 and change remaining from this project, and we're going to start on Seabrook Road, and which is next year's project as well, and we're going to fix the sidewalk and install ADA mats at each intersection, each cross street. So we'll go as far as we can this year, and then complete it next year. Seabrook Road is not a full replacement. There are some areas that are really bad. There's some areas staff is fixing right now as well, but we'll get a jump on next year's project as well this year.
I've got one question for you. Is it typical to do a 6-inch sidewalk rather than a 4-inch?
It's become very popular because just because of the sheer strength of going from 4-inch to 6-inch.
So is that kind of the new standard that you're trying to do here in the village, is go to 6-inch?
Yeah. You see any given day, somebody will pull up on the grass and they'll put their side wheels right up on the edge of the sidewalk and they crack the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you go from 4 to 6, that's why when we cross the driveway, the depth goes to 6 inches to be able to hold the weight of a vehicle crossing that.
Yeah, honestly, it's not that much more expensive, really.
No.
I mean, the labor's already there. All you gotta do is add another 2 inches, so you're only buying really concrete. There's no more, really. Gotta do a little extra excavation, et cetera,
Yeah.
but it's not.
It's definitely cost effective, and it's going to last a lot longer.
Yeah.
It will also help deflect oak tree roots as well.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments on this
My only
item?
other comment, let's just make sure that the thickness is correct. Lessons learned, right? That wasn't your clock, I'm just saying.
I'll tell you, I go out and measure every piece of sidewalk that's replaced in the village. I do the inspections. And I have pictures.
I've seen him out there with his tape measure.
Let's just make sure
I
we're
probably have
honest.
about 1,000 pictures, so.
Every municipality inspects every pour that there is. I go out there and.
Not everyone believes that.
Okay, any other comments? All right, can I have a motion on this item as well?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's
Aye.
unanimous. Doug, you're still with us. This is the Train Air Conditioning Repair and Maintenance Agreement Extension.
Yes, the contract we had with Train Controls, air conditioning for repair and maintenance. So this building here and the public safety building has Train packaged air conditioning units. And we've had that contract with Train since I came to the village 6-7 years ago. We had a contract back in 2018. That contract is expiring. It is a sole source agreement. This is simply to extend the contract for an additional 3 years through September 30th, 2024. And when the new community center goes online, we'll have to amend this contract to include the community center because they have Train package units as well. Pricing has gone up a little bit since 2018. There's not much we can do about that. Other than over the last 5 years, our staff has, I've trained the staff, Train has trained us to have staff working on the units, more so than calling out a trained mechanic or technician every time you call them. You know, it's $300, $400, $500, $600. So this contract used to be double the rate it is now because we had them come out 2 or 3 times a year and they go through the whole system. We have them come out now only once a year, and every month the staff gets into all the condensing units, the air handlers, they check the drains, they check the program, clear the alarms. So that's helped reduce this contract, even though the rates have gone up a little bit. So at the end of the day, we're really, we're partnered with Train. We don't really have an alternative.
Council discussion? Any questions? Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Doug, before you run off, did we get the transformer fixed on the decorative lighting on US 1?
We did not.
Okay. We're still in process.
It was due to come in today. Imagine having trouble just finding a transformer.
Okay.
But hopefully Keith was going to check the end of today. It might have been around 4 o'clock today. If so, it'll go in tomorrow. We lost a transformer on, I don't know if you noticed, on US 1, all the lights were out, all the new umbrella lights. We lost a transformer out there. So it's become, as most everybody knows, it's become extremely difficult finding equipment. You know, first even locating it and then even getting it at a decent price.
Yeah.
So even though some of these contracts and some of the pricing goes up, at least we're locked in for a long term, which helps us.
Yeah, which is in this environment has proven very beneficial in a lot of ways. So
yeah,
good, it's good work that you guys have done. All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to item.
Thank you.
Item 21, Mr. Corbett. This is to approve this service agreement with American Concessions in the amount of $48,800 for the Fall Festival 2021, which is a 2-day event.
Yeah, this is an agreement with American Concessions to provide the amusement end portion for the event. It's called Fall Festival, not Tequesta Fest. It's a big difference between the two. And basically, they provide, you know, the rides and the games, the music end with the inspections and everything that comes with it that you see that was part of your agenda packet. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions from the council?
Are you you are utilizing Dover Road, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for, the only thing that's going on Dover Road is that you don't see up there is the bank, it's called Banquet and Bun, it's the food portion will be on Dover Road. But everything else that's on that list will be in the park.
Okay. And any other questions or comments? All right, can I have a motion on this item, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and item 22, we have pulled from tonight's agenda. That'll come back to us at a later date. Moving on to item 23, Mr. Hammond, this is authorize a piggyback contract and work authorization with Florida Design Drilling for Florida well rehabilitation.
All right, good evening again. Lori's got me as the closer for the night. Get the last 2 outs. So the first one is the rehabilitation of the 3 upper Floridan wells. Just a little recap, the village has 14 raw water wells that serve the water treatment plant, 10 surficial, 4 upper Floridan aquifer. The upper Floridan aquifer comprises 76% of our allowed groundwater withdrawals through the Water Management District, and through a study and analysis that we done about a year and a half ago, 3 of those 4 are either operating at reduced capacity or are inoperable. And so this is a pretty important exercise or project that we're going through. And so this, as part of this project, we are proposing to piggyback the town of Jupiter's contract that they have with Florida Design Drilling. Town of Jupiter has a number of nearly identical wells, a very robust maintenance program, and competitive pricing. And so this project, or this, what's before you tonight, is that piggyback agreement, along with a purchase order request for the work. The pricing for it came in substantially lower than what the engineer's estimate was. The best explanation I have for that is there was engineers, and I'll say that as one, can tend to be a bit conservative, and I think they're a little bit overzealous in their conservatism on this particular one, but we'll take the wins when we can.
I agree with that. Any discussion, comments from the council?
I have a comment. Thank you for acknowledging it coming in way under budget. And I mean, a budget estimate is just that, right? It's a guess. And the engineer did it, right? That's what she said. When you, I don't remember what it was, but when you put together the whole package to raise the water fees, how much does something like this weigh into that? Because at the end of the day, if this came at half, would we have had to raise the water fees as much? So just kind of thinking ahead future, how to address that.
Yep. So this was a part of, that budgeted number was a part of the financial plan that was put together, and the backbone or the backup of the 5-year rate resolution that was brought forward in April earlier this year. And so these savings are, again, we'll take the wins when we can. It is a part of it. It's not a, I'd like to say it was a large part. The lion's share of the rates were driven by the water main replacement program. And so those construction projects are coming up in the next, at least that first tranche of them are coming up in the next 24 months. And so I would say that from a global from a larger perspective, I think that it would be good to, it'd be wise to take this win and keep an eye on these construction projects that are coming ahead. If those projects come in substantially under, then it would be smart to go back and revisit that plan. Personally, I'm a little bit cautious about the price of PVC right now, which is the biggest cost of these projects coming up. They've gone up 21% year over year, the price of PVC, and 40% since the beginning of the pandemic. So I'm holding my breath a little on those projects coming through. But if they, if we are fortunate enough that they come in substantially under, then I think it would be wise to revisit that. But I think it'd be a little premature at this point, given that the size of this and the grand scheme of things.
Okay, and then going forward too, I agree engineers tend to be more conservative in their estimates. Do we ever have contractors provide estimates, or are we not allowed to do that? Or does it have to be an engineer? Because lots of times I work with contractors to put together an estimate.
So our pricing is, budgetary pricing is a combination of the two. And so to the extent that we're able to, this particular one was vetted through through this contractor here on this particular project. The water main projects are typically based off of examples. There are not examples, but recent bid prices. So they're always a little bit rearward looking. and then making a guess on what those escalations are going to be as you move forward. But to the extent that we can, we do get solicit input without giving an advantage to potential bidders on projects, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, thank you. No other questions?
You do have another question?
I said no other questions.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't hear the no
Speaking
part.
clearly.
Okay. That was an excellent question, actually. I agree. Okay, any other questions or comments?
No, sir.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And last item this evening, approve the work authorization 22.01 for water main replacement program, Jupiter in the Pines South. This is for professional engineering services contract with Holtz Consulting Engineers. And again, Mr. Hammond.
Yep. So this is the one of the next steps, one of the next phases in the asbestos cement water main replacement program. This is for design services related to what is termed as Jupiter in the Pines. It's the subdivision that is immediately, or Jupiter in the Pines South, which is immediately south of Tequesta Drive. And so again, this is for the design and permitting phase services. A subsequent work authorization would come forward at a later date for bidding and construction phase services.
So does that include, does that include all their inspections and stuff too?
The next work authorization that would include bidding and construction phase would include the observation, yes.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's approved unanimously. Okay, thank you, everyone, from village staff that was here this evening. Moving on to any other matters. Does anybody else have anything they would like to bring to the council's attention this evening? Bruce?
I'm good, thank you.
Lori?
The EAC met, but really they focused on meeting with NILSA, and NILSA presented everything to them. And they looked at all the different park properties and gotten all the information from NILSA. And that was pretty much the whole meeting for them.
Okay. Molly?
Jeremy did send me something regarding the prevention of retail for restaurants and how other municipalities have done that. I do think that is something that as a council we should talk about, maybe on a workshop agenda, so I'd like to recommend that we do that. So I'll make a proposal to do that.
Okay.
And then also the upcoming workshop. I know that there might be one person not available, and just wanted to see what was pressing or what's going on that right after Thanksgiving, if maybe we can postpone that to the next December meeting.
I had that as one of my items as well. So, yeah, I'm going to be out of the country. I will not be here, and I believe, Kyle, you had indicated
Yep.
you were going to have
If I can-
difficulty being here as well. So the proposal would be maybe to move the workshop, even though it would occur on the same week as the council meeting, to move it to December 5th. I talked to the manager, or December 6th, I'm sorry. I talked to the manager, he doesn't see anything on that agenda that would likely lead to a need to have a vote on anything at the regular meeting, which is usually why we have the workshops in advance, so that if something comes out of the workshop that we need to vote on the following council meeting, we can. We don't have to move it. If there's three of you here, that's still a quorum. So it's really up to the three individuals who would likely be here as to whether you want to continue on the 28th or move it to the 6th.
You mean the 29th? You were
Or
just
the
all about those
29th.
Sundays today, aren't you?
I'm stuck on Sundays, I don't know why.
And do we know what the topics are going to be?
I don't think we've decided that yet.
I haven't finalized it. I have some that we could talk about, but, you know, I don't think any of them are pressing that we couldn't move it or even cancel it.
That'd be my recommendation, is cancel it during this busy time of the year.
Yeah, I had expressed to our clerk I can go either way.
Didn't we cancel January though, or did we move it?
We did cancel January, which,
So I wouldn't advise canceling 2 in a row.
yeah, I'd still be in
Moving it
favor
is what I
of
was in
moving it
favor of.
and having it the following week. And I know
Or could
we're
we
gonna-
not move it to the end of December, so that way, since we have nothing in January?
Well, the only problem with the end of December is then you're right in the middle of Christmas and New Year's.
Not like at
trip.
the end to end.
What about like the 13th?
Yeah.
That would be better.
Just that way we have
So
something,
move it.
because we don't have a January one, that way we aren't waiting until
In the middle.
February.
So you're looking to move it to the Monday after the December regular council meeting? Is that what you're
Correct,
suggesting?
sure.
So instead of the 6th, the 13th?
Something before February, basically.
I'm fine with that.
So when, you're saying move it into the middle part of December?
Make it December 13th.
As long as we don't
and
wait till February.
Instead of December 6th.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna be here, December the 15th
This would be the 13th.
through the rest of the week.
I mean, I'm good with the 13th.
13th works for me.
That's a Monday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're good with that, Lori? That's your suggestion?
I look good.
All right, so let's shoot for the 13th then. The only other comments I want to make is Jeremy and I were at the Palm Beach Legislative Delegation meeting. I will say there weren't too many other municipalities represented there, other than those who actually had a speaking role on the panel. The manager from Boynton did bring up annexation. That is a significant issue, not just for us, but for other municipalities in the state. So, and Jeremy has been asked to be on the committee, and I've been asked to be on the committee as well, because a lot of people are struggling with the whole issue of bringing in these enclaves with these pockets. And people are looking for action at the state level to make it easier for the municipalities to move forward on that. So no definitive legislation at this point, nothing to share with the council as a whole. But I did want to make you aware of that. There were some interesting topics discussed, but that was probably, in my mind, the most significant one in terms of application to us. So
What committee is this?
this is a committee for the Florida League of Cities that's addressing the annexation issue, not just for us, but across the state. There's a lot of municipalities that are facing the same kind of challenges where they've got pockets and enclaves that are benefiting.
Oh, I know that. Who asked you? Florida League of Cities?
Yes,
Okay.
one of the members of the Florida League of Cities.
Okay.
And I believe Richard Radcliffe had asked you, right, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's the director for Palm Beach League of Cities. So, all right.
Sounds good.
Anything else? I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Aye. Sorry.
All right. Unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
I'll jump the gun.
Good waiting.
Make it quick. Make it short.